Welcome to Manage Marketing and Sales. My name is Bruce. I'll be going through this module with you. You would have received from your facilitator a learner guide, a workbook, and a portfolio of evidence. As we go through the different class activities, you'll be required to complete these activities in your workbook. At the end of this module, there is a portfolio of evidence for you to complete with obviously the assistance, if need be, of your facilitator. Let's have a look and see what are the two unit standards that we're going to be covering in this module. Firstly, we're going to be looking at the managed marketing and selling process for a new venture. The second one will be how to tender for business or work in a selected new venture. Now let's have a look at the agenda. And there it is. First point we're going to be looking at is what is marketing and selling process of new venture, and then the tender for the business or work in a selected new venture. All right, let's kick off with the first module, which is Manage Marketing and Selling Process of New Venture. And this is the module outcomes that we're going to be looking at today. Firstly, how to implement a marketing plan, how to negotiate a deal with a customer, outline processes and principles for completing of basic quotes. All right, let's have a look at managing marketing and selling process for a new venture. Firstly, it's a critical phase of your business is getting your product known, even before you open your doors and in the actual startup phase. Marketing obviously will take time, money, and of course, a lot of preparation. One of the best ways to actually prepare yourself is to develop a solid marketing plan. A strong marketing plan will ensure you're not only sticking to your schedule, but that you're spending your marketing funds wisely, but also appropriately. How to implement your actual marketing plan. The Chartered Institute of Marketing defines marketing as the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, as well as satisfying customer requirements profitably. Marketing, this is the actual business activity of presenting products or services in such a way as to make them desirable. Your strategy, a carefully devised plan of action to achieve a goal or the art of developing or carrying out such a plan. The marketing concept. A marketing concept is the overall approach of getting customers to actually desire and purchase your product. Then the marketing mix plan. The marketing mix plan helps you define the marketing elements for successfully positioning yourself in the market. It consists of the 4 Ps, which help you define your marketing options in terms of your product, place, price, and promotion. It also can be used when you are planning your new venture or evaluating an existing offer to make the best possible impact on your target market. The marketing process will comprise of, firstly, a market research to actually determine your strategy, a marketing mix plan, the actual implementation of that plan, ongoing research, evaluation, monitoring, planning, promotions, and implementation of new marketing ideas to ensure a profitable business. When you implement a marketing plan, it's important for you to communicate with your staff, know your end goals, also to monitor your progress, make adjustments if necessary, develop contingency plans, and lastly, to seek expert advice from those who are in the field already. Now, how do we integrate the marketing concepts which are outlined in your business plan into your business activities as well as your tasks? Even though the most well thought out business plan is just a stack of paper if it isn't coupled with a plan of actual implementation, so the action. And here are the guidelines for a successful business plan implementation. Firstly, objectives. Your objectives should be crystal clear and specifically spelled out, since you'll use them as a building block for the rest of your implementation plan. The tasks. This is the part details what must be accomplished to achieve your objectives. This includes a task manager for each step, so the roles are clearly defined and there is accountability. Time allocation. Each task should be paired with an appropriate time frame for completion. Progress. You or a member of your management team needs to be in charge of monitoring each task's progress and the completion percentage of each objective. The term marketing mix was first expressed in 1960 by E.J. McCarthy. It means finding the right product and putting it in the right place, but promoting it at the right price, at the right time, in order to affect customer motivation and behavior. To be able to identify business activities associated with marketing concepts, you draft a marketing plan and must address the 4 P's of the marketing mix, namely your price, your product, the place, as well as promotion. Now, how do we determine the suitable ways in which to actually promote the product or service of a new venture? Firstly, there are different ways, and we look at firstly, how do we advertise? Do we have launches? Is there informal selling or formal selling? Now, many selling techniques can obviously be used, such as the selling networks, the Aida Principle, which is attention, interest, desire, and acceptance, direct selling, cold calling, or principles of negotiation. The selling networks, that's nothing more than one person actually promoting or selling a product or service directly to another. A large number of products can be distributed using the direct selling business model, which includes your beauty products, perfumes, vitamins, weight loss aids, your cleaning products, clothing, jewelry, linen, cookware, insurance, holidays, financial products, books, toys, and educational products. The Aida Principle. Aida is an acronym used in marketing and advertising and describes a common list of events that may occur when a consumer engages with the advertisement. Firstly, the A is attention, which is the awareness. Attract the attention of the customer. Always be friendly, natural, and smile. During a telephone conversation, the tone of your voice will convey the smile on your face. First impressions, as they say, is lasting. Interest. Do research with regard to consumer needs and raise customer interest by focusing on and demonstrating advantages and benefits. Instead of focusing on features as in traditional advertising, then the desire. Convince customers that they actually want and desire the product or service, and it will satisfy their needs. Question your clients carefully to actually ascertain their needs. Then action. Lead customers towards taking action and or purchasing. If the 3 steps above have been successfully, then the conclusion of your transaction naturally follows, and then you can close a deal, sign the agreement, and remember to follow up with punctual delivery. Confirm your commitment in respect of good after-sales service. Direct selling. One key advantage of direct selling has over other promotion methods is that it's a 2-way form of communication. Direct selling involves a 2-way communication with prospects and customers that allows a salesperson to actually address the special needs of the customer. When customers have questions or concerns, the salesperson is there to actually provide the appropriate explanations. The 5 objectives of promotion or direct selling is firstly to build product awareness, create the interest, provide information, stimulate demand, reinforce, of course, the brand. Cold calling. Cold calling is the marketing process of approaching the prospective customer or clients, typically via telephone, by email, or through making a connection on a social network, who are not expecting such an interaction. The word cold is used because the person receiving the call is not actually expecting your call or has not specifically asked to actually be contacted by a salesperson. And the cold call is usually the start of a sales process. Selling skills. Good entrepreneurs are generally very good at selling their products or services, and as an entrepreneur, nearly everything you're doing is selling. You are selling customers on buying from you. You're selling suppliers on working with you. You're selling an investor on investing in you. And you're selling employees on joining your company, etc. Here's your sales call checklist. Firstly, when you make a phone call, you need to prepare prior to actually making that sales call. Also, identify how you're going to greet and what introduction you're going to use when you contact the client. Then, you've got to qualify in terms of what it is they actually qualify with the product. Why do they actually want it? And also, you do surveying to actually survey, do the products actually meet what the needs are? This is why the qualifying step is important in order for the surveying to actually take place. Of course, there's going to be possible handling of any objections by the person that you're actually phoning, and you need to be prepared to actually be able to handle those objections, especially if the client says he or she does not actually want the product, but there could be another need for another product that you might be selling. Then presentation. It's all about how you actually present yourself. Are you friendly? Or you crust? How is you present yourself when you are making that call to the client? Then closing. Once you've done your presentation and you've explained the terms, conditions, and the benefits to actually the client and why they should actually have that product, how you close. Because if you just say bye, it's not going to leave a lasting impression. You want to create that lasting impression so the client can actually close the deal and want to actually make sure that they take that product with you. And of course, it doesn't just stop there after making the sale. You also need to maintain the customer by following up and making sure that you build a relationship by making sure that you actually meet the demands and deliver that special service or product to the customer as promised. Now, implement your customer relations practice to ensure customer satisfaction. The customer relations practice includes after-sales service, which is just as important as the first cold call or initial sale that's been made. Customer surveys also are used to determine levels of customer satisfaction. If you don't do these surveys, how will you actually know if you actually are still meeting the needs of those clients? Information gathering methods can be also feedback from your customers. Of course, feedback from your staff members are just as important because remember, they are also deemed as internal customers as well, and they also would be able to pinpoint things which might not have been quite apparent. Observation. You can observe the way customers are. Are they coming in? Are they actually wanting to purchase your product? Collect customer data. Collect the survey forms that you've actually distributed. Look at any complaints that you receive to see where it is that you can actually improve in your service. And of course, check on social media. Those are also important methods that you can be used to actually see if you can actually market and also receive feedback from your actual clients. Now, how do we analyze an organization's customer service related policies and procedures? Analyzing the organization's customer service related policies and procedures when you want to actually improve the customer service within your organization. Firstly, there has to be a policy. The customer service policy is a written code of conduct for the employees to actually utilize when they are servicing of customers. There has to be basically how a person should be serviced. The procedure, customer service procedure, is the way of doing a routine practice. In customer service, there's a certain protocol that must be taken in order to remain competitive. Customer-oriented service standards. It's crucial for an organization's service standards to actually focus on the issues that are important to actually customers that will influence their decisions. Service standards are specific. The specific service standards that can be easily understood, followed, and measured. Vague or ambiguous standards aren't effective because people would interpret them differently. So be clear and concise. Service standards are realistic. To be motivating, service standards need to actually be practical and obtainable. We mustn't overpromise something which we know we cannot deliver. States how progress will be measured. Service standards must be based on observable actions so that the organization can actually measure and track its actual progress. Give dimensions to the service experience. Standards must address everything customers experience when they do business with the company. Product dimension. The qualities that are important in the product dimension of service are procedure or system-based and can be easily measured. For example, prompt service and timely delivery of service or products. Experience dimension. Your experience dimension qualities are related to customers' perceptions about the process of obtaining products or services from the company itself. Please complete class activity 1 in your workbook. Let's move on to negotiating a deal with a customer. Negotiation takes place when two parties with differing or conflicting interests come to an agreement. Usually each side will bring a series of proposals to the process that are then discussed and acted upon. Disagreements are bound to happen because people inevitably will have differences in their opinions, their values, and their goals. Negotiation is most successful when both sides recognize first the value of the relationship and have a mutual desire to actually continue it, participate actively in the process, will show consideration and acceptance of each other's perspectives, values, beliefs, and goals. Separate individuals from the issue involved. Work together to actually develop a solution everyone can actually accept. So let's have a look at all the basic principles of negotiation utilized to secure new business. Firstly, business is negotiation. You will negotiate to buy, to sell, to conclude contracts with suppliers, to fix the staff salaries, and so on. What is more, you have to negotiate with regulators like banks or insurance companies, etc. Please refer to pages 38 to 41 in your learner guide for more information. Now, let's have a look and explain how do we implement the principles of planning for negotiation according to your own business context and market research. The most commonly overlooked aspect of negotiation is preparation. Before you can gather information, you need to know what you actually want to achieve, what your counterpart or the party that you will be negotiating with actually wants to achieve. What are you likely to achieve? To what extent are you prepared to concede? What are your alternatives? What is your counterpart? The subject matter itself. What are you negotiating about? Here are the steps in negotiation. Firstly, to prepare. Do your research ahead of time so that you know your opponent and you know what you actually want from the negotiation. Be open. Let the other side know what you want and let them tell you what you want. Argue. Back up your case with evidence and uncover defects in their argument. Explore. Search for common ground and agreeable outcomes. Signal. Show that you're actually ready to reach an agreement. Package. Put together different acceptable options for both parties. Close. Come to an agreement and finalize the negotiation. Sustain. Ensure that their side and yours follows through with the negotiated agreement. How do we apply appropriate negotiated techniques to our own venture and business contexts? Firstly, you need to analyze the interests of the parties. This is actually important to understand the perceptions, the style of negotiation, as well as the interests and the principles of your counterparts, as well as one's own when you apply negotiating techniques in one's own venture. Now, if we were to select the appropriate negotiating techniques that we'd follow, firstly, there are different ones called, first one would be aspiring agreements. This begins by reaching a minimum agreement, even though it is not actually related to the objectives, and build bit by bit on that first agreement. Changing your position. To formulate the proposals, but in a different way, without changing the actual final result. So different ways to actually achieve the goal. Gather information. Ask for information from the other party to actually clarify their position. Making the cake bigger. Offer alternatives that may be agreeable to the other party without actually changing the terms. A good example is where you see cell phone companies actually including an extra cell phone in a 24-month contract, for example. Commitments. Formalize agreements orally, but also in writing before ending negotiation. Then, negotiate. Be sensitive and quick to actually adapt to changing situations, but do not lose sight of your overall objective. Avoid confrontational positions and try to understand the interests of the other party. Some aspects that could interfere with the negotiations are personal positions and interests, psychological and emotional aspects of the persons, like placement of chairs, the body language, gestures, etc. Difficulties in communication, for example, differences in languages, different meanings of the same words, etc. Please complete class activity 2 in your workbook. All right. Outlining of processes and principles for completing of basic quotes. Firstly, if you look at the different types of offers in relation to securing different business transactions, there is direct negotiation, a possible request for information, request for quotation, as well as a request for tender. If we were to identify the principles and procedures for compiling of quotes, a request for quotation, or RFQ, is a standard business process whose purpose is to invite suppliers into bidding processes to bid on specific products or services. An RFQ typically involves more than the price per item. Information like payment terms, quality level per item, or contract length are possible to request during the bidding process. To receive the correct quotes, the RFQs often include the specifications of the items or services to make sure all the suppliers are bidding on the same item or service. The 7 main steps in quotation and purchasing process is: firstly, the quotation process must be determined. Requests for quotations to be prepared. Quotations are invited. Suppliers would then respond. There's evaluation, selection process takes place. Notification and debriefing. And then contracts are established and, of course, managed. The basic marketing and financial principles incorporated in the quotes. Quotations are almost the same as tenders, but are less formal since suppliers do not have to follow a formal procedure. Many purchasers first call a number of suppliers to actually obtain verbal quotations before asking for quotation in writing. A quotation does not have to be in writing, but it is better to have a written quotation in order to avoid any misunderstandings. Costing and pricing calculations. Pricing is important because it determines the income of your business. The quoted price affects the image of your business because customers associate that price with the values of the goods or service. If your quotation is too low, they might assume that the product is inferior. And if your quote is too high, they will most probably approach your competitors. The net price. Net price is the final charge that you pay for a product or service after discounts and sales taxes are computed. The net price or net transaction price can be set by a written contract that spells out the payment terms for a long-term trade agreement, which could be expected to last over 1 month. The legal implications of quotes. Your right to actually request pre-authorisation for repairs or maintenance services. Consumers actually have the right to request a written cost estimates or quotation from suppliers prior to the suppliers actually executing, for example, any repairs or maintenance services. Suppliers are not actually permitted to charge consumers for drawing up any cost estimates or quotations. Consumers also have the right to pre-authorize or refuse any additional repairs or maintenance services. Consumers are not liable to pay for repairs or maintenance services done without their prior approval. Suppliers are not permitted to charge consumers for any diagnostic work, inspections required in actually compiling the cost estimates or quotations unless there was a prior agreement. Suppliers are actually required to include a cooling off period in a direct marketing transaction, and cooling off periods generally span 5 business days. Consumers also have the right to cancel agreements within the cooling off period without providing any reasons or actually incurring any penalties for doing so. Suppliers are also required to return payments received from the customers within 15 business days of receiving the cancellation notice. Your right to cancel advance reservations, bookings, or orders. Consumers actually have the right to cancel any advance reservations, bookings, or orders. Suppliers are entitled to request a reasonable advance deposit for reservations, bookings, or orders, depending on the nature of the business and specific circumstances. Suppliers are entitled to impose a reasonable charge for the cancellation of reservations, bookings, or orders, depending on the nature of the business and the specific circumstances. Your right to choose or examine goods even after the purchase and delivery. Consumers are also entitled to obtain free copies of free electronic access to copies of agreements or contracts, irrespective of whether consumers have entered into such agreement or contracts. Free copies should also include an itemized breakdown of any financial obligations under such agreements. Seeking support and compiling quotes in order to ensure full understanding of criteria that apply. When you need to compile a quote, you could seek support in order to ensure that you fully understand the criteria that apply. It is always a good idea to actually use a checklist when you're quoting, but also make sure you cover all the aspects required. And please see the example on page 58 in your learner guide for such an example. Now, look at the common pitfalls when quoting or order taking. Firstly, the quotes could be confusing, as well as the estimates. The preparing quotes could have insufficient information. People could be left to make assumptions based on the quotation they've received. For example, there might not be a splitting of tasks into smaller segments. Quoting of prices might also lead to a misunderstanding. There could be many time wasters to be aware of. Also allow for costs when quoting. If you're inexperienced, increase the estimated time by up to 20%, meaning that you give yourself extra time to complete a specific delivery or a service or a product that needs to go out to a specific client. Please complete class activity 3 in your workbook. Thank you.